Today is an episode about misalignment, right? That the American citizen or the American family, let me say, has been following the rules, but haven't been compensated according to what the rules say they should be compensated. But the rules changed after the people or the American citizen or the American family have committed to the rules. So again, this title is very simple and it's called The Goalposts Has Been Moved. Today, we're going to prove this very clear, very simple, very easy, okay? Now, today, the American family was told that education provides stability. The American family was told that employment leads to security. The American family was told that salaries lead them in a direction or a way of progress. Okay. So what did they do? They budget. They worked overtime, right? They did everything according to the rules, which they thought was the right thing. Yet somehow the protection that they thought they was getting from security feels fragile. The stability that they thought that they were getting feels temporary, and the generational wealth that they thought they was building feels extremely distant. Not because they failed, but because the conditions and the rules basically changed, right? So the problem is not income alone. The problem is that salaries were designed for an old version of life. I'm going to say that again for you. The salaries that we receive was designed for an old version, let me say, of life. Let the record show that the cost since 2023 has restacked. Protection costs increased, right? So we're talking about insurance, we're talking about childcare, we're talking about housing, we're talking about healthcare, right? All have moved in an upward trajectory. Now, wages rose, but not enough to absorb this cultural or this societal shift that we've been experiencing. So this creates layers of harm, right? This is the external problem, that the income that we receive no longer covers the modern family obligations. The internal problem is this: families feel anxiety, families feel confusion, most families feel shame, and some families are just purely exhausted. Now, you cannot change the rules of the game and blame the players. So we have to identify who the villain is. The villain in this is the structural lag. And let me help you with this. We live in a system where employers talk about competitive salaries. Banks talk about qualifications or who's qualified to receive things. The culture always talks about who's successful and how they became successful, but the math no longer agrees with what we're talking about, okay? So we're living under legacy salary assumptions, let me say, in a modern cost environment, okay? So what I mean by that, the legacy salaries is we think that if you are a banker, right, at a high level, you're a senior banker, then just somewhere in the six figures, right? But that six figure salary compared to a modern cost environment doesn't equal to what it used to. That's legacy salary. Now, the school board never updated. If I shoot a 3-pointer, it doesn't count as 3 points no more, right? In this modern environment, right? A 3-pointer now should equal 6 points, okay? So let's get into this. I'm not here to motivate you today, right? I'm not here to amp you up, but I am here to help you translate reality. I'm not asking you to hustle harder. No, I am asking you to understand your terrain or understand your environment. I'm asking you to study that. I'm asking you to fashion yourself or to discipline yourself according to the modern environment. Because once you understand the environment, you stop blaming yourself, right? And you start adjusting with strategy, or you stop pointing a finger at the people who are involved in this, creating this instability environment, and you create the strategy that you and your family needs in order to be successful or to survive, right? Now, I want to present to you protection salary. I got to give you some solution, right? Protection salary covers this. This is what is outlined in protection: housing, food, transportation, insurance, emergency interruptions, right? Why protection? Because protection goes without panic. It goes without delay, right? Without you borrowing, right, from your future. Think about this. If one unexpected expense breaks the household, then your protection is insufficient. I want you to understand that today. So this is why when you look at money, you have to look at it from a standpoint of protection. The second part I want to present to you is this: stability. You have to have a stability salary, right? That adds, right? It adds to your consistent savings. It adds to your predictable cash flow. It adds to your child care without stress. It adds to your maintenance without crisis. Let me help you. Stability means one problem doesn't become five. One missed paycheck doesn't collapse the house, okay? If life feels like one long reaction, that means stability is missing, okay? I want to present to you what I talked about earlier, legacy salary, right? Legacy salary allows asset ownership. Legacy salaries allow investing. Legacy salaries allow estate planning and also transfer of advantage. What does that mean? If I have an asset, I can transfer that to someone, could be a child, could be a spouse, could be a family member, so they can have an advantage for the next several years, okay? Now, this is where time works for you. Children inherit structure. They do not inherit stress, okay? Now, let the record show clearly most families are paid at a protection level. Let's be honest about this, but is expected to live at a legacy level. It doesn't make sense. So at a protection level, you're paying your bills, right? You're playing the game at the rules that was set for you. But in order to reach the legacy level, you have to supersede your salary. So therefore, you can do other things for your family in the realm of legacy. Understand that? Now, this is not about ambition. That is pressure without provision. That's what ambition is, okay? I want you to get that. Now, these are the stakes. If the goalpost remains unacknowledged, families normalize fragile way of living. If the goalpost remains unacknowledged, emergencies erase your progress. If the goalpost remains unacknowledged, children inherit survival thinking. If the goalpost remains unacknowledged, then wealth becomes accidental instead of intentional. This is what I want to get to you today. But if we acknowledge the shift, our career decisions mature, right? If we acknowledge the shift, then the income strategies evolve over time. If we acknowledge the shift, then families stop internalizing failure and legacy becomes designed, not hoped for. Now, let me give you the call to action today, right? I don't want you to feel guilty if you have not found yourself in the upward trajectory as it pertains to your protection, your assets, your legacy, or your career moves, right? This is about awareness. The goalpost has been moved, right? So we are and have been refusing to acknowledge that fact, right? And for that reason, that makes you undisciplined. But we can take it back, right? We can take it back in our reins and we can be more disciplined, right? Because if you haven't acknowledged that the goalpost has moved, the goalpost has shifted, that makes you vulnerable, right? So the call to action is simple. Stop chasing income numbers. Start building income alignment, protection, stability, and legacy. That's the new framework. No more is it a number. No more is it a position. It's about protection, stability, and legacy. I want you to grab that today and hold on to that. That's the new framework. That's the new standard. And this is how families will win in today's modern environment.